Hey, welcome back. All this time, we've been learning the fundamentals and the theory around PHP, like arrays, multi-dimensional arrays, submitting forms, creating little programs to swap out text, and loops, variables, constants, things like that, creating functions, all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of useless if you don't know how to put it into practice. And the most common way, at least for me, and maybe for you as a potential front-end web developer or even back-end web developer, you're going to be taking static websites and you're going to be converting them into more dynamic websites. And the difference between static and dynamic is basically static is just an HTML page, never changes. And dynamic site is usually PHP, and it's pulling from different, a database, and it's pulling from different files. You could separate and reuse and recycle different functions and different pages. And it's just more of a living and breathing entity rather than just a static brochure website. That being said, we haven't really touched on how to take a static site and then snip it apart and make it dynamic with PHP. Well, lucky you, we're going to do that right now. And in my opinion, this is kind of the coolest feature, the coolest way of using PHP. And it's very, very simple. But we're going to be using all the different theoretical elements that we've been learning in this whole section, like functions and arrays and loops and all that sort of stuff. So let's jump in and do that. So basically what I need you to do at first is create a new folder in your PHP folder, just to keep it separate. We're going to just call it project. And in there, I want you to create a new file called basicwebsite.html. And in your basic website HTML, what we're going to do is we're going to add a static site. Now, instead of us just coding out a static site, that's a waste of time, we're going to go to getbootstrap.com and go to the Getting Started tab. And if you scroll down just a little bit on the sidebar, you'll see examples. That'll take us to the examples of the Bootstrap framework. And we could just copy the HTML and utilize that and make it dynamic. So scroll down to the blog example here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the source right from this page. So I'm going to go inspect or right click here and then view page source. And then I'm basically going to copy everything within the body. I'm not going to copy everything else because we could basically just copy that from a different page that we've already worked on. So right before the body, there we go. I'm going to copy that right down to the end of the footer there. And I'm just going to paste it in here for now. Obviously, we don't have all the basic structure yet, so I'm just going to give some space for that. And I'm going to copy from a previous page that we've worked on. So let's say functions_arguments.php. That'll do it. So basically, I'm just going to copy right from the doc type down to body. Copy that because that's going to grab the CDN, the CSS there, and we're going to paste that at the top, just like so. And we're also going to need to, let's just delete all the space here, scroll down to the very bottom of this page. And now go back to your functions arguments, scroll down, copy from HTML, and grab to the jQuery right there. So I'm going to copy that and paste it down here, the bottom of our page. And now we should have the basic Bootstrap CSS and JS. And I'm just going to remove this echo title here. I'm just going to put a basic title here. I'm just going to say basic website. I'm going to save. Now let's just see what this looks like so far. Okay, we've got the structure and it's looking okay, but it doesn't look exactly the same as this. And that's because this has custom styles built in. So I'm going to go back to that view source, and up in the head here, link href blog.css, custom styles for this template. So I'm just going to right click, open that link in a new tab, or open it however you want. And I'm just going to copy. So select all and copy that. Then go back to your code. Create a new file in your project folder there. Just call it styles.css. Paste all that CSS, save it, and now go back to your basic website.html. And we need to add another style sheet in here. So link rel style sheet, and then href styles.css because we're in the same directory. Close that up. Now we should be looking exactly like the sample. Okay, so now we're at square one. This is a static site. Let's take this static site, turn it into a dynamic PHP site. What we're going to do is we're going to split out the header, put it on a separate page so that we can utilize it across different pages if we wanted to add more pages. We're going to take out the sidebar, put it on a different file so that we could pull it in. Same with the footer. Very common practice with PHP. Cool thing we're going to do is we're going to create an array of these blog posts so that we can use one simple PHP loop to loop through all the blog posts and post them on the screen here without us having to type it all out manually. So it's technically dynamic. Usually you'd use a database, which we'll be getting into in the next section, but this is the next best thing. Okay, so let's go back into our basic website at .html. What we're going to do now is we're going to start splitting stuff out. We're going to snip this apart and make it a bit more dynamic. So we're going to clean this page up. And so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take the header and the footer and put them in separate PHP files. But first we need to change the extension of this file to PHP. Otherwise we can't utilize PHP. So now it's a PHP file rather than just static HTML. Go ahead and create a new folder inside your projects folder. Call it includes. Again, common practice in PHP to have an includes folder where you have things like head.php, foot.php, sidebar.php, functions.php, so on and so forth. It's just to keep things, your directory, a little bit clean and easy to navigate. And in here, we're going to create a new file and call it header.php. Now, go back to your basic website, grab everything from the top right down to body. Cut that out. Save. Now head back to your header.php. Paste that in there. Save it. Close that file. You don't need it anymore. But now you need to hook it into your original basic website.php. Easy enough. PHP. We're going to use the built-in PHP function called include. Looks like so. And then in a string, we're going to reference the directory. So includes, we're in the project folder. So you just have to just go straight to its sibling, which is includes, or straight to its child, which is includes, and then header.php. That's going to pull in that header. So let's see what that looks like. Nothing looks different. And that's because the header is being pulled in from a separate page, but it still shows up the same. But now we can, if we created a new file, say about.php or contact.php, instead of coding the header again, you just need to include the header right here. And that's all you need to do. So you change, if you need to change the header, you change it in here and it changes across every single web page on your site. That's the benefit. Now I'm noticing here the blog masthead. I want to grab that as well and stuff it in the header.php because it's the navigation bar, and that's a pretty common thing to stuff into your header.php file. Okay, great. Now it should be, there we go. Perfect. Looks good. Now we're going to do the same thing for the footer. Let's go ahead, go back to basic website.php. We're going to cut from the bottom HTML up to footer. Cut that out. Save your basic website file. In your includes folder, create a new file called footer.php. And perhaps you get the idea. Paste, save, you're good to go. Close that file. Now, in basic website.php, at the very bottom, include your footer.php file. Include /footer.php. Close that string, and you should be good to go. Double check. Here we go, and there's the footer. Looking good. Next up, sidebar. Perhaps you already know how to do this now. We're going to create a new file called sidebar.php and go back to our basic website.php. What we're going to do now is grab all of the sidebar. So let's find where the sidebar starts. Looks like we have right here, line approximately 82, sidebar, blog sidebar. Cut out the sidebar like so and paste it in sidebar.php. Save, close that out. You don't need it anymore. Now you just need to make sure to include it down here. PHP include your includes /sidebar.php. And now your sidebar should still be in there. There you go. So now any page you create, you simply need to add your includes header, includes sidebar, and includes footer, and you'll have the same structure across all pages without having to change. If you needed to make changes, them across all those pages. You could do it once in their specific files, footer, header, and sidebar, and you'll be good to go across the entire site. Okay, now we're going to do a cool little thing here. We're going to grab these blog posts, and instead of making them static here, I'll just code it out by hand. We're going to create a file, and we're going to add all of these blog posts as an array, a multi-dimensional array, and then we're going to display that information by using a for each loop. Okay, now what we need to do is create a new file in your includes folder, call it posts.php. Now in posts.php, you simply just need to start up your PHP script, and we're going to create an array of blog posts. You can do as many as you want, but I'm just going to do the 3 that are already there. And I'm going to simplify them a bit because they have a little bit too much text for the example purposes of this tutorial here. But here's how it works. Array. We got 2 arrays in here, one within the other. We're going to start off by giving the key post title. And then we're going to associate, we're going to assign a value in here, sample blog post. That is the title of the first blog post here. As you can see, basically all I'm doing is just taking the information in here, storing it in an array. So we got post title. Next up, we have the post date. So post-date, you can call this whatever you want. You could say PD or post date, however you want to, you could just be date, but I'm going to call it post date and post title. It's just the convention I'm going for right now. Feel free to follow along with the same thing so you don't get lost. January 1st, 2015, we're going to have post-author, and we're going to associate Mark. Mark's the author. And then here we have post-content. And simply in your double quotes here, just add a bunch of HTML. You can copy and paste straight from the example there. You might want to watch to make sure you don't have any conflicting double quotes within it. But I'm just going to use some lorem ipsum, but with built-in HTML. So I'm just going to use about 3 paragraph tags, paste it. 3 paragraph tags, just like so. And now what I'm going to do is put a comma after this array. And I'm going to copy this array, and I'm going to post it or paste it again, but just change some of the values. So this will just be another blog post. The date, let's say December 24th, 2014. This will be Jacob. Again, I'm just copying what's already in the template that was provided to us. And one last time, copy this. I'm going to paste. And then we're just going to say new feature. And then this will be December 14th. And this guy is Chris. Okay, remove the comma of the last array. You don't need it. Save it. There is your posts.php. Close out of that. You don't need it. You don't need to be working on it, rather. Now, here is where the fun part happens. And you'll be surprised at how easy it is, simply because you know how loops work. Okay, so what we're going to do, instead of having all this HTML in here, we're going to get rid of it all. But make sure you keep the blog post wrapper, because each of these blog posts have the class of blog post wrapped around it. We're just replacing the information within it. So remove all the blog posts, but keep an opening and closing blog post tag like so. And so now all I need to do is around this blog post div, I need to open up a PHP script and start a for each loop. Now, I'm not going to close this curly brace right here. I'm going to close it after this div. PHP, close the curly brace. There you go. See how that worked? You might be wondering why that just happened. Well, I want to be able to utilize and code HTML without having to echo all of the markup out in PHP. And so what you can do in PHP is you can open up a curly brace, close the script. So PHP is now deactivated, I guess you could say. And everything here can just be real HTML. As long as I open up a PHP script again and close that curly brace. Because if I didn't, then we'd have some issues because we didn't close the curly brace. So instead of having the closing curly brace there and having to echo all of our HTML and everything that we're doing in here, I can keep that curly brace open, put HTML in between the two scripts, close the PHP curly brace right down here. So for each, because we're going to be accessing that array, posts as singularize post. In order to access those those arrays, I need to include posts.php file in our includes folder. Now I can actually start doing some cool stuff. So level 2 heading, class blog post dash title. Now I could have kept all this markup. We deleted it by just leaving the blog post, but this is basically the markup that was already there. And you could reference, you could undo if you want, just to see that I'm not lying. But blog post title, the next thing we have is paragraph with the class of blog dash post dash meta. And then in there, we're going to, in here, in the level 2 heading, PHP echo post, because we're referencing an array here, multi-dimensional array, post dash title. Close that up. Go in here, post meta, PHP echo post, and we're going to be accessing post dash date by, so just some text, and then we're going to say PHP echo post dash author. There we go. And now one last bit here, just down here below. This is where we had the original HTML for the blog post itself. Echo post dash content. Save. Let's see what happens. Look at this. Sample blog post, January 2015 by Mark. Blog post, another blog post. New feature. All the information that was in that array is now displayed on the screen. Now look at our basic website.php file. It's very clean, 43 lines of code and HTML. We're including a header. We got the posts array. Now we have one loop right here. So we're looping through all of the posts and we are spitting it out right here in a simple template instead of having to code this out as many times as there are blog posts. We're including the sidebar, including the footer. Now we have a very, very clean, beautiful template. We took a static website, turned it into a fairly dynamic website. Now we're not using databases yet, but when we jump into the next section, we're going to be talking about databases with MySQL. So hang tight for that. Enjoy your newfound PHP skills. Play around with it. Start making some of your sites dynamic, and I'll see you soon.